Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Marketing and Mocktails with Manal. Today's guest is someone very special, and I met her uh, through Facebook actually when I was trying to go to the Speaker Consulting Network conference, and that's when I met her. And then I actually met her at the conference. And the one thing that I always found so amazing about the special guest is that she's very giving. She was, I was somebody who did not know what I was going to do with my speaking stuff. And I was asking a million questions because that's what I do. And she was patiently answered all the questions, and she was there with me, and she was showing me the ropes. And not everyone does that. And this is why it's very special for me to have her on the show. As you all know, all the guests that come to this show have some kind of a relationship with me, or there's a reason they're on the show. I just don't invite everyone. So this is somebody special to me. And you may know her because she has been in this industry for quite some time. And she is really, really good at what she does. So here's the guest, Vanessa.
Thank you, Manal. How sweet. I appreciate that. And I'm really excited to be here. This is really fun.
I'm so excited. And before we go into all the little bit of the strategies and the details with marketing, and especially the speakers, you have a really cool story. So, tell us a little bit about how you got started and where you are today, and what happened in that process.
Sure, and I'll give you the nutshell view because I could talk about that for quite a while. 17 years now in dentistry. Prior to this, I worked in medical. I've always been an office manager prior to what I do now, and my doctor retired in medical, and I happened to be looking for a job. And this was back in the time when we found jobs in the newspaper. And I responded to an ad, and that's how I was introduced to Catherine Belt. That probably many of your listeners know Catherine as well. And we worked together for almost a dozen years. And simultaneously, a few years into our working relationship, as we were working to find ways to help her find more consulting clients and more speaking opportunities, there became opportunities for me to coach others on the success that we had found. And Catherine really encouraged me to spread my wings and take on, if I wanted to have a side job. And that little side job grew into this full-time business that I've had for 10 years now. And I love to share that story because it has always impressed me, her willingness to not be fearful. To encourage someone who's working for you to actually grow. And I'll always be eternally grateful for her for that.
I have a similar story to that because when I started into this field, I was a college kid. I was actually shadowing. I was pre-dental at Rutgers University. And I grew up in the Virgin Islands, and then I came to St. Thomas. From St. Thomas, I came to New Jersey to go to Rutgers. And I studied communication and biology. And I was pre-dental. And as a part of being the pre-dental club, I had to shadow a dentist. So this is 2004, and I came up with my profile, and I faxed it. I can't believe I faxed stuff.
Right.
But I faxed my profile to everybody. And this one specific practice, who is a pediatric orthodontic practice, huge practice in New Jersey, amazing people, husband-wife practice, but very big practice. They said, come on over and shadow. Now, I came from the Virgin Islands, so I did not have a car or anything. So I took local transportations and taxis, and I shadowed them for, I think it was 3 weeks in the summer. And when I was leaving, they said, make sure you give us a call. As soon as you're done with school, give us a call. And I did. So when I finished college, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do dentistry or business because I loved both.
Yeah.
So I've said, why not take the time out and actually learn a little bit more? So I gave them a call and said, hey, I'm out of college. What do you want me to do? And the funniest part is they didn't have any open positions. They had no open positions for me, but they wanted me. So when the manager spoke to me on the phone, she's like, Manal, we have no positions for you, but come on over. So in my head, I'm thinking I'm just going to go have lunch with the doctors, right? Because I had a little bit of relationship with them. Well, I walk in, not dressed in like interview clothes, but dressed nice, but not in interview clothes. And the next thing I know, I'm being interviewed. And I walk out with a job, and they're like, we don't have a position for you, but we just want you. So we'll just see where you fit in. And, I did the scheduling, the front desk, the lab part, the assisting part, and also the marketing part, because I studied communication, and marketing is a huge part of that. And I started taking over their marketing, and, we started streamlining things. And a few years later, we were getting calls from like the AAPD asking us what we are doing for marketing because it's a pedo practice, and all these things happen. And then instead of, I had my everything ready to apply to dental school. My profile, my DATs were taken, my application was online, and I had to press send. And I did not press send, but decided that I was going to open up a business. And it was going to be this marketing business for dentists. And that was it. In that moment, I decided I'm going to do it. And I went to the dentist the next day and I said, hey, so I didn't apply, but here's my plan. And he's like, go for it. Totally do it. So it's so important, like you said, that journey of, having people who support you and who see that talent and say, go for it, and are okay with that. It's so hard to find in this industry.
Yes, and I think also too, listening to your gut is a big takeaway from that story. Thanks for sharing that. That was really fun to hear how it just unfolded. I think I heard a speaker one time say one of the best things our mind can do for us is turn its attention to our gut.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love that. I think about that a lot, that we're never steered wrong when we listen to that gut. And so you did that. And congratulations for being brave.
Oh, thank you so much. In fact, I have by the time this launches, actually the new winter issue of the Dental Entrepreneur Women may be out already, or it's coming out. Catherine is actually on the cover of the magazine, and I'm also one of the featured people in the magazine. And funnily enough, I wrote an article about trusting your gut.
Oh, I love that. I can't wait to read it.
Yeah. So it's so funny, because I was talking to Ann Duffy about it too. And the first thing that I said in there was that you need to trust your gut. You need to see, you need to go out there and listen to yourself and say, okay, this is very risky, but if you have that pillow of cushion to say, if I fall, I'm not going to be that bad, just do it. Just try it,
Mm-hmm.
Why not? But before we get into nitty-gritty details and strategies, I want to know what you're drinking.
Okay. So in my fancy glass here, this is my empty out the fridge smoothie.
I love it.
So would you like the recipe?
Yes, please.
Because it changes every time. There's a kale base. I love kale because there's so many nutritional reasons to drink kale. Dr. Uchi will be really excited to hear about this. And so we have a kale base, and then we happen to have carrots left over from a veggie tray. So the carrots went in. We have 2 oranges and a banana and pineapple juice and a little water. And then this is a small amount of what was created, and my husband's going to guzzle down much of the rest of it.
I love it.
But I do too. It's a little green. It's a little, not for everybody's taste, but you could certainly add soda or something sweet to it. But I love the health aspects of it. How about you?
Well, I'm a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian all my life. And so I love vegetables. I love kale. And I love smoothies. But I actually went a sweet route today because I was wearing pink and I wanted to match.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to match. So I actually made a Cinderella drink. And it actually has a little bit of orange juice, pineapple juice, lemon juice. I'm looking at the recipe because I don't remember all the ingredients. Ginger ale. I didn't have orange slices, so I garnished it with lemon slices because that's what I liked. And just a dash of grenadine, and it's really, really delicious.
It sounds really delicious.
Yeah, it's a lot of fruit, a little bit of soda. It kind of works out really well, but it tastes delicious. So cheers. Thank you for being on my show. Thank you so much. Cheers. So,
the green mustache now.
Oh, and just for our disclaimer for all the listeners and the viewers today, Catherine loves cats. She is Vanessa. I don't know. Why said Catherine?
We've been talking about
Catherine for a second. Sorry. Vanessa loves cats, and you may see one of our friends make a visit today or appearance. Just FYI, it's all good. It's 2 people having a conversation. We are not formal here, so just want to let you all know about that.
That's why the cat tower's in the background. We are a cat rescue here. Full disclosure. And
we'll talk about that more later. But the first question I have for you is because I see, you gave your backstory and you talked about a little bit what you did with Catherine and how you opened up your own business. So what exactly do you do? Like, what exactly is it with speakers, consultants? Like, what do you do?
if I had to pull it down to one defining statement as far as what is the focus of our business, I would say that we help dental speakers grow their businesses. And we do that in a wide variety of ways. And most of the speakers that I work with do consult. And as you know, speaking is really a marketing activity for most people. So how we started was helping individuals with their speaker marketing packets, and then it grew into helping them with their websites and email campaigns and print campaigns and all that. So we have a full-on creative agency. We have copywriters, graphic designers, web designers on our team, and have for many years, and have worked with literally hundreds of our colleagues in creating their materials. And so that's a big bottom, not bottom line, but like, for the bread and butter of what we've done for so many years. But it's like a behind the scenes thing. You don't see that out in the public as much as some of our other services. So in addition to that, we offer dental speaker bureau and directory of dental speakers. So they're similar but different. The directory is more like a directory, a yellow pages, white pages approach, and the bureau is more of a full service offering where we do get in the middle and help event planners and speakers find each other. And so that's been a lot of fun. And then a third arm of what we do is the events. So there's a couple different ways that we offer presentations. For instance, I speak on the circuit around helping dental professionals who think they might want to speak, help them understand how to get started, what to do, what those resources are. One thing I do find myself saying frequently in that presentation is success leaves clues, because I found that was really helpful to me as, excuse me, as I came out of medical to work in dental and had no experience before in marketing. It was really helpful to find the organizations or the individuals out there who are willing to share what had worked for them. And I find that this is a really sharing industry. I anticipate you've probably seen that as well, that there's a lot of people who are very open to, giving it away. And it's not like holding it tight. It's not being fearful about, oh, you might take my business, as much as help each other. And together we create something better. And so that, I don't know how I got down that rabbit hole, but I was talking about events. So I do the presentations on the circuit. Then I also have my own self-sponsored, like a showcase, kind of an 1.5 to 3 hour presentation I would do in a city where I may be traveling. I could set up an opportunity for local doctors and dental professionals to come in to learn more about, similar to what I speak on the circuit about. And then thirdly is our really exciting new thing that maybe we'll talk about more in a minute, but our Dental Speaker Institute is going to be a big way of answering those questions of how to grow a speaking business. So we'll probably wrap around to that a bit.
I started being a speaker. Well, I started being a speaker young in high school, but it was so funny because I was very active in the local youth group when I was growing up in the Virgin Islands in St. Thomas. And I used to perform a lot. I did a lot of dancing and things like that. And one of the biggest events we have there, they actually asked me to be the MC for the event. And I was 16 then. And when you're 16, you're so energetic. You don't look at things like, you don't look at risk. And I feel that I wasn't, I can't talk about everybody, but I personally was not very scared of speaking because I speak a lot. I am chatterbox. I talk, right? So I'm like, why not? Let's do this. And then the next thing I know, I get the details of this program, and there's supposed to be 500 people. The governor is supposed to be in this. It's this huge thing. I have to introduce all these like famous, not even famous, but like political figures that, you can't just, these are people that, I respected. You have to put your best foot self out, right? Like you can't just wing this, So I didn't realize that when I took up on the job. And then I said, oh my God, now I have to do it because I committed myself to this and I have to do it. And there's, my parents always said, if you commit, you got to make sure that you follow through. Like you can't be that person who has somebody else in trouble because of that. So just do it. So I decided to do it, and it opened up such a big passion for me to speak and to network because of that one event. And that's actually one of the reasons I studied communication in college, And in communication, they actually have marketing classes, but they also have speaking classes. I actually took classes on being a speaker in college itself. Um, but all of these classes, all of this experience, that in high school, it was by luck. And in college, it was because I was in that major. They don't exactly they teach you how to be a good speaker. There are things that you can do. There's a way to storytelling, and there's a way for pausing. And I'm still learning so much of it. I'm still not there. I'm still learning so much of it. I think you always learn as a speaker. And they don't necessarily teach you how to make that into a business. They don't teach you, how do I survive on this? And that's where then some of the things you mentioned about networking and having that go-to place is so important. And that's where I was so lucky where, you were able to give me such great advice, because every industry is different. There are different ways of climbing the ladder. There's different networking opportunities. And for everybody listening to this, from my personal experience, I was, in so many ways, I was at the right time in the right place for certain things. And I had the relationship with people who got me there. But you need strategies, you need support, especially support, and people who are willing to share. So tell me a little bit about the Dental Speaker Institute. Tell me, how is that going to help the newbies, or even the speakers like myself who've been speaking for a couple of years but really want to launch that speaking career into their next big step?
Well, my goal with Dental Speaker Institute is to offer a master's level course program for dental speakers. So whether they're just starting out or have been doing this for some time, our vision is that this is a deeper dive than you get at association meetings or the typical meeting that you might attend in our industry for speakers or consultants. Our focus is really on that educational component. That being said, we also will be inviting meeting planners and vendors and VIPs, because I think that's an important part of the overall picture. There'll be opportunities for, meeting planners to hear you speak, to walk away with demo videos, different things like that are part of that. But ultimately, the way this will help the dental speaker is to help them with not only the presentation skills and the content development, as you were mentioning, but really to understand the business side of things, because that was one thing I was going to mention as you started talking about it, and then you took the words out of my mouth. Thank you for that. As far as every industry is different. I mean, certainly when I go to National Speakers Association meetings, their annual meeting, you hear that when you see the materials that work in other industries and think, oh, I've tried that here, and it just it wasn't enough for our meeting planners. There's some things that would be good for speakers to know, to be able to help them get results faster. And I think what I'd like with Dental Speaker Institute is for it to be one way for the person who would like to really dive deep and master the business and art, of speaking. And the fun little cherry on top part of that, which isn't really little, is that we will be offering the chance to earn a professional designation.
Wow.
Which there's nothing like that for dental speakers in our industry presently. So I'm really excited about that. Now, National Speaker Association has their certified speaking professional, and some of our other associations certainly have their fellowship or mastership or certification programs, something along those lines. So we're developing the curriculum right now, and it will be something that's rigorous enough that meeting planners will respect that this person has has really learned at a deep level. So we won't expect that this person might show up and not have a backup of their presentation if something happened to PowerPoint, or something like that, the rookie kind of mistakes. So, and more detail than that too. But that's it in a nutshell. Would be around the educational component is what I think really makes it different. There will be a faculty, we'll be pulling from our faculty at those annual sessions, but also throughout the year there'll be opportunities to work with the faculty with different workshops. But we'll also be pulling outside of the industry for different speaker development experts to come in and educate.
And
I'm really excited.
I think it sounds amazing. I actually want to sign up right now.
Excellent.
I want to sign up right now, because I am a true believer that you always have to keep educating yourself. You always have to keep learning from others, and most of all, learning from experts. You know, you have people who have done this before. You have people who know the industry, and these are individuals who are able to share with you. So that, then why not? You know, like, and nothing is easy, right? And you need to be able to give the time. Like you said, it needs to be a rigorous curriculum, because otherwise it's too easy. And then
Right.
everybody is doing this. So you have to set yourself apart. And if there is a program out there that can set you apart with that, why not?
You know, I found especially for our dental professional colleagues who don't have a professional designation after their name now, I'm finding that especially in those situations, you know, say maybe an office manager or, you know, someone who works on the team that does not have RDH or DDS or
Mhm.
another initial, that they really find that attractive. But additionally, doctors and hygienists and office managers who may have achieved a FADON, which is a fabulous program, um, are interested in being able to, you know, there's that personal satisfaction of really doing well at what you do, and I think that's a big part of it as well. Not only how the industry sees you, but just so that you know you're doing your best.
And you know, it's so funny because when I started, and it's a ladder to climb as well, right? You can't, you may be lucky, very lucky, and be in the right place at the right time and get a huge crowd and life is great. But for many of us, you have to start to make sure this is something that you enjoy and you're good at before you jump into it and start having your information out there, because you're not going to be taken seriously. And you can do a lot more negative marketing for yourself than positive marketing. When I started speaking, it was, funnily enough, by luck. Not a luck thing, but it was more my topic was needed, because I speak on marketing and I am a millennial, and guess I'm in the younger speaker zone than, you know, so many of the speakers we have in that age group. And you know, social media was a very hot topic. It is a very hot topic, in fact, even though that's just one of the topics I talk about. um, there was a dentist who was asked to come speak on social media, and he told me to tag along with him, because he's like, you know, they asked me, but you know a lot more. So I want you to come along with me and see what we can do. And this is my first speaking engagement, right? This is my first one. I walk in and their screen is not working. So I have a whole PowerPoint and I can't use my PowerPoint. And
Mm.
I'm talking about social media. So I said, okay, well, this is a time where you become a big girl and you do this. This is before I even opened my company. This is when I was just, you know, a marketing director, and I was just doing these things. So I told them to go ahead and get, you know, the board with the paper to flip it. So I said, okay, let's just get that. Just get me 4 different colors of markers. We're still going to do this, because people still showed up. People were there and they needed their CEs and I needed to present, and they were expecting this presentation. And I started writing and presenting, and I couldn't use my PowerPoint. So I said, okay. And it was so bad, because it was my first presentation and everything that could go wrong went wrong that day. You know, it was raining, so I got all wet coming in. I was very young. They were not expecting me. They were expecting the doctor who was supposed to speak, who didn't tell them in advance that I'm bringing somebody else who's going to be joining me in the presentation. They're like, who is this girl talking to us? Like, who is she? She looks like she's 20 years old. I was in my 20s, so I was young. Who is she? You know, like, what is she doing? And now the PowerPoint's not working and the presentation's not working. And they didn't know I was a vegetarian, so I was super hungry because there was no food for me to eat. It was everything that would have said, Manal, this is not your calling. Universe is trying to tell you, do not do this. But I wasn't ready. Was not ready to give this up. And I said, I'm going to do this. This is going to happen. And I did. And I had them bring the flipboard for me and 4 markers. And I gave a presentation for 2 hours on social media. And I gave, you know, surveys at the end. And I got only 1 survey, which was less than score of 5, which was the highest score. Everybody loved the presentation. And the only survey I got at the end, which I know I am a victim of, was I talk too fast, because I do. I talk blah, 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 blah. I have that energy where just I keep going, you know. So I talk too fast. And they're like, you talk too fast. But everything else, everyone in that room liked the presentation. And I was so excited. I was so happy. And every time I have a bad day about this, going through speaking, I always look back and I'm like, everything went wrong. Like, I was dripping wet. Like, it was a rainy day. It was just one of those days where I was hungry. It was raining. Nothing worked. And it happened. And you just did that. And that was it, you know, and that was in the right foot. So what are some ways that, like, somebody, myself those years ago, what are some ways where somebody new can just jump into speaking? Because there's always this fear factor and there's always this risk factor. And I guess the biggest thing is I'm going to embarrass myself. How do you get into a speaking position when you have all these fears? Like, do you have some tips on that?
I do. And this is great because I wanted to say, adding on to your story, you show us that it's not all glamour. As I think people think sometimes, I want to speak so that I can travel around the world and they're just going to hire me and bring me in and they're going to pay me money and send me first class to China and stuff that is just not really typically the reality. And if you are asked to go to China, you kind of pay to get yourself there most of the time. It's just, and then if you're sick or not, you have to get on the plane and go if you've made a commitment, and things do go wrong. And, on the flip side of that, which is most of the time, it can be so rewarding. So I just think it's important to go in with your eyes wide open that it's for the dental professional who's just wanting to get started. One of my favorite things to share with them is to be sure and reach out to colleagues that that speak, see who you can talk to who can get their real life experience. But once you decide that, hey, I think I've got enough real world experience around something, like maybe it's around dental implants, or it's around scheduling, or some topic, medical dental billing. It's something I feel like, I've been doing this for years. I find that I'm helping other offices, and people are saying, hey, I should consult on this. That's what I hear most of the time from people, or that they'll sit back and they'll watch the speaker and they start making some judgments like, can I do that? Or I could do better than that. It's one thing I tend to hear, unfortunately. But I think that's where it starts for people, is thinking, well, maybe I could do that. I could get paid and that would be really fun. And so this is like an hour worth of the presentation I'm going to pull into like just a couple minutes. It's really a couple of things. I think it's super important to know what that expertise would be, and that was probably going to be your niche. And it's better to go narrow than wide. Pick a lane, and don't make the mistake of thinking, oh, that's going to be a really hot topic, so I'm going to learn about that, and then I'm going to speak about that. That's just not a good way to go. It's better to know about that, know it's a hot topic, and then go speak about it. So once you have that niche idea, then before we get into all the fun stuff around learning how to speak and all the different resources and that are out there for you, I think it's really super important. Just like a practice management consultant would tell their doctor, you need to have a vision and a mission statement and a plan. It's no different for you as a speaker or consultant. It's really important to think about, where are you trying to go in your life? And I don't mean, when I ask that, sometimes people will say, well, I really want to train teams about, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, what do you want to do when you get up in the morning? Like, my life vision is I want to be able to roll out of bed and meditate, take care of my animals, exercise, work several hours, work on my cat rescue. It's like I've got my day planned out. Like, maybe there's some traveling and that kind of stuff in there, but like, that's where my boat's going. And it's important for you to think about, what do I want in my life, whether it's 3, 5, 10 years down the road, so that you can then, that next step, put together a strategy for your business that will get you to that life. So it starts with that, thinking about, what do I want? And pull together that strategy. I'll share with you a resource that I found was really helpful for me, was Chuck Blakeman's book, Making Money is Killing Your Business. I don't know if you've read that, Manal.
I haven't read that yet, no.
Yeah, Making Money is Killing Your Business. Your listeners could find that at Barnes & Noble or Amazon. It's really great that vision exercise and strategy is in there. But that's really where it starts before you head off into like all the other resources for developing your program and your, where you want your life, where do you want to be in your life, and then start thinking about a strategy. Am I going to speak? Am I going to consult? Am I going to maybe have products to sell? Am I going to do online education? Like, what do I think I might want to do? And right now you're kind of guessing until you get in there and really develop it out more. And you'll just develop that over time. I think this strategy continually changes. To me, it's more of a really beefed up to-do list, like on steroids to-do list, where you've got target dates and everything, but a living document. So when we get into the actual, what can I do to become a speaker, as far as, developing my skill and developing my content? one resource that I think is not recognized enough is Toastmasters. I did Toastmasters. I'm a competent communicator. I love that term. That's is the base level. It means I've had 10 speeches there. I achieved that first level of recognition through Toastmasters. And I think it's a really great place for people to start to decide, do I like this? Is it fun? You'll pull together anywhere from 5 to 7.5 minute presentations. You do it in a group of individuals that are from your community. It's a nurturing environment. I've been involved in a couple different Toastmasters groups, and they just tend to attract people who are outgoing and warm and supportive. And so if you get up to give your presentation in front of a group of people that know you, it feels different. It's a group of friendlies. And so you know that they're going to support you. You know they're going to point out all the things that you did great, and then they're going to lovingly help you know things that you could do to improve. And I can't emphasize that enough as a great place, low cost. I think it's about $10 a month to be able to participate in something like that and not have to put a lot of investment into marketing materials or anything until you know more. Another organization that is a national organization is National Speaker Association. And when I first started with Catherine all those years ago, I learned so much as an office person for her. They have a whole staff track, but also Catherine learned, I know she would say, over the years, so much exponentially. You learn there by not only sitting in their sessions from people who are really well-known international speakers and have them share with you on different topics, but also just to sit back and watch and make notes about what did they do well. Like, I know he rolled up his sleeve there purposely. It's like you start watching the presentation skills aspect of it. I mean, certainly within our industry, there are multiple places you can go to work one-on-one with coaches to develop your content. Catherine's one person. Catherine Eitel Belt with her lionspeak.net website offers that type of training. Dr. Paul Homily, I think, is also exceptional. And his website, I believe, is Homily Communications, or it might be paulhomily.com. And he has a wonderful 2-day workshop. It's too many to list. There are organizations, there are individuals, and I think if you just start reaching out to your colleagues, again, it's that trust your gut thing. When you reach out to talk to people, say, what did you find effective for you, and share with me your results. I think it's just good to get those resources and evaluate them. And that's really there's a 3-part strategy. It's like the envisioning, which is the determining my vision and creating the strategy. And then that part in the middle that I'm talking about really quickly, which is we could add so much to, is the engage. Like, how do I engage with my content? How do I start getting it from here into the computer? How do I start learning how to stand in front of people comfortably? You're a natural, Manal. Most people are not. For most people, it's like, oh my gosh, feeling before we go on. Like people get sick. It's that fright that I think is healthy. And to learn how to, in Toastmasters, they say get the butterflies all flying in formation. You probably heard that before, but I think there's something about that. It's also can be dangerous if you don't feel some level of like anticipatory, like I'm on stage, because then you can really bomb. But that's like that whole middle section is learning how to develop this. Well, what to develop, how to develop the business side of it. And then step 3 is the executing it. So I think I'm ready to speak on medical dental cross-coding. And I've been doing this for years, and I have my presentation outlined, and I've come up with like a course description beginning, and I'm learning how to present. So now how do I get the attention of meeting planners? How do I actually get booked? That's the 3rd section, and that's really the marketing part. So that as you're developing in part 2, you can also be getting ready in part 3 with you'll need a website and a speaker marketing packet of some sort. You'll want some kind of a campaign to get out in front of meeting planners. And again, that's a whole nother huge conversation that I'd be happy to share if anyone had questions. I really do enjoy those conversations of sharing resources and helping point people in directions in the industry where they can learn. I feel like it's my way of giving back, because certainly others have done that for me.
No, and we appreciate that. That is a lot of good knowledge right there. I'm like writing it all down, trying to take like notes while you're saying all this. Thinking, oh my God, this, and this and that, and last year was my, and this is a very open conversation. So this is not, promoting myself or anything, this is open conversation. So, last year was my year of speaking, where I spoke at least twice a month, and I ranged with groups as small as 5 people for like a 6-hour workshop, all the way to 500 people in a huge conference in Las Vegas for marketing. And throughout it all, I found that for me, again, I guess this is very different for each speaker, like you have to find that zone, and that not only your content, because see, content could be common, social media marketing or just marketing or team training, all of that content is so much the same, right? But is the delivery, or is it the whole question about why you? Why should you be delivering this content? Why should people listen to you compared to somebody else? And when I started to strategize that and break that down and reverse engineer into saying, why me? Because I think once I understood why me, it gave me the confidence to say, yes, totally me, I can totally do this. This is why me. This is the reason you should listen to me talk about this topics, because this is what I can deliver on. This is what I'm able to do. So I think it's that, I think a lot of times we don't, or we have issues about looking at ourselves and saying, do I really suck at this? Should I, because there are topics that I wrote down and I'm like, I really suck at this. I cannot talk about this. Like, I am not a good speaker on this topic because I am going to suck at this topic, and then I would look at the other topic and say, okay, this topic I can do because I don't suck at it, or I'm better at this, or A, B, and C. So that, kind of helped me, but it does take a lot to, first of all, go through that process and understand what you are good at and what you're not good at. You have to be comfortable with yourself and say, okay, like there will be sometimes I get speaking engagements requests, and I call them and tell them, like recently I got a speaking thing about, dental insurance. And I called them and I said, listen, I'm not that person. I'll get questions I will have no answers to. Like, I can definitely look up online, do my research and come up with a great presentation, but I don't think the audience is going to buy it, nor do I feel comfortable doing it. And if there are questions, I'll have no idea what to say. And that's not for me, and I think you have to draw that line and say, nope, not for me. So this is where the marketing of the speaker gets confusing to so many of us, because one, the market is cluttered. There are so many speakers and there are not that many industries, let's say dental industry. There are not that many specific topics. There is clinical topics and there's marketing topics, and there are huge umbrellas, right? And so how does somebody coming into the speaking, just being a speaker, compete with some of the big names or compete for that spot? Like, what do you think they need to do?
Thank you. A couple things. I was making a list in my head, like I want to talk about that and that. First of all, congratulations, 2 a month, fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
No, seriously, that's great. There are a lot of speakers out there that would love to have a couple dozen engagements a year. So way to go. I find anywhere from 10 to 12 is average. So seriously, way to go. And then you talked about differentiation. And I do think that is really important. And it's not, when I say why you as a speaker, why me as a speaker, I don't really mean like why you as a person, right, as a speaker, right? We really mean, what is it about your education, your experience? Maybe you have a special certification that no one else in the industry does, or few people do, or that really pertains to this particular, maybe you're a certified fraud examiner and that gives you the right to speak about embezzlement, as opposed to someone who doesn't have that training, or that's your opinion on it. Or it could be the way you present. So in the whole idea of learner engagement and workshop versus lecture format, meeting planners do pay attention to what's the likelihood that the attendees are going to retain this information. There's one thing there's a term that speakers use, the show up and throw up, as this could come and just like blah, put it all out there, but then is anybody really going to do anything, with that? And so I think that's a huge differentiator for the people who actually workshop. And I don't mean necessarily clinical hands-on pig jaw type workshops. Yes, but I mean for all these other topic areas. So what you did that day when you were rained on and didn't have any PowerPoint was you workshopped it. You got out the Post-it note flip chart and the markers, and that's a point of differentiation. Someone who feels, here's what I took from that was, you're comfortable enough with your topic. Just like right now, we don't have an agenda, we're just talking, right? And this is the kind of stuff we talk about all the time. So when you get to that level of mastery with something, you can just go off the cuff because you have your answers. And so that is a true professional. I think someone who can just show up, have a loose agenda, but be able to flex with the needs of that particular audience. Oh man, that is something that meeting planners would really appreciate. So that's to the differentiation piece of what you were mentioning. I think that's really important, is to determine what is it about what I bring to the table? Is it topic, or what is it that's different? I think that is important. And make sure that's in your materials, make sure it's in your message. You also mentioned something in there I wanted to call attention to, was outside eyes, getting outside eyes on not only your business, but on your speaking. So if you think, oh man, I didn't do very well, or man, I did great, but really you could use some help. It's really helpful to either, one thing would be to videotape every time you speak, so that you can go back and make your own assessment of like, oh, I didn't realize I'm sitting there with my little clicker and just turning it constantly, a nervous habit. Like I have some habits with my hands that I will do some things with my fingers that like my mind's going to, I don't even realize it. And so it helps you to see that and go, okay, I need to do better about that. Or ask someone who watches it to give you feedback, or somebody who's there that you trust to get feedback. And that's the type of thing you get at Toastmasters, that kind of thing. So outside eyes on both your content, your presentation skill, and outside eyes on your business. And that's where a coach would come in handy, or a colleague, someone that's a mentor that would could be really helpful for you as well. And then at the end of that, you had a question that I don't remember what the question even was.
Well, I was just saying that because the market has so many well-known speakers, and there are so many speakers covering a range of topics who have been doing this for quite some time. So they are almost the go-to candidate for a meeting planner. So as a newbie, how do you break into that market? Because everybody, is like, well, I want to speak on this topic, but that's this well-known speaker who's probably going to get the gig because, they've been doing this. So like, what can a newbie do to really get into the market?
I want to encourage you that is a myth. It really is. It's a myth. And I feel really blessed that I'm at this unique place that most people don't have access to, a foot in both camps. I work with meeting planners every day. Just this afternoon, I've had 3 meeting planners write to me to find speakers, right? So I'm talking with speakers every day. I'm hearing from meeting planners constantly. And I would tell you that over the years I've been doing this, you'll some of those names that are those really well-known speakers that you're thinking of, actually, they don't really keep marketing. They end up in dry spells as well. And I find that there's not one right answer, and I want to get to one point specifically, but let me add this first. When we talk about marketing, the very best marketing you can do is deliver a really exceptional presentation, period. Because when you're up there doing an exceptional job, especially when there's a couple dozen or more people in your audience, there's gonna be a meeting planner in there. It's somebody who's a director of a study club or something. There's gonna be somebody who's maybe married to a dentist who's a director of a study club or something. There's gonna be, and the larger your audience, the more likely there's gonna be people in there who, I can't tell you how many times somebody walks up, oh, I'm the president of Idaho Dental Association or something like that, and hands the card. I mean, so the very best thing you can do is develop exceptional content and presentation skills, and it takes time to get there. But that's the measuring stick I would tell someone, is that their presentation is ready. That how do we measure this? Is, do you get spin-off business every time you speak? If not, you keep working on that delivery and the creation of the content. And then in the meantime, you do a whole lot of marketing. Now, once you get to that point where you're always getting spin-off business, you will still want to have some level of marketing. And I keep losing the question, and I know there's something I really want to tell you. Start again on it.
No, I was just saying that because there are so many, but you already answered it. I mean, you said there are so many well-known speakers.
Yeah, there was something I wanted to add about that because I don't remember. It'll come to me.
It's okay. I'm sure it'll show. You know, and you know, I totally understand what you're saying. So my second gig after that disaster of a gig, which turned out to be pretty okay, which gave me the confidence to say, Manal, you're good. Let's try this again, right? My second gig, and again, given from just my experiences here, was so I decided, okay, maybe I could do the speaking thing. Maybe I can get into this, right? I became sponsored at a lot of events, so I heard a lot of speakers. So when I went and sponsor events, I would hear the speakers speak, and I would see what they're doing, delivering. It also gave me into the meetings, because as a sponsor, you meet, you know, the head of, you know, whoever the person is. Like usually organizations or study groups or study clubs, they have somebody who's in charge of doing the sponsors and the speakers. And hey, this is Manal, this is what I'm doing, blah blah. And then I would always say, oh, by the way, did you know I'm also a speaker? And I speak on this specific topic. And this is what I am. So I did that. And I luckily ended up, I'm a hygienist. So my dental hygiene association was looking for a speaker. And, you know, I knew them. And I said, hey, guys, you know what? I launched this new company. And I'm really trying to delve into just get my feet wet with the speaking thing. I have a 2-hour C presentation, which it's already approved by the board in New Jersey. Can I speak? They were like, okay, yeah, you know, why not? These are people who know me. These are my friends. These are colleagues. They're like, come on and speak. And you were so right, because I delivered that presentation. It was over 2 hours long. And in that presentation was a meeting planner for another huge dental group who immediately, so Vanessa, my meeting ended at 9. I was there till 10:30 answering questions, because my presentation was geared around how hygienists can make money outside of being hygienists, right? What they can do, and so there was a lot of questions and stuff, and it was a lot of involved with digital marketing. And this guy came up to me and he said, hey, listen, we loved it. We're looking for speakers for my organization. Can you come? I spoke there. From there was somebody else who got me there. And the funniest part is one of my presentation had a dentist there. It was a workshop, it was a 6-hour workshop that I was asked to do. And his son is a writer for Huffington Post. And he was like, you know, people don't share this information out there. And I loved what you shared. And there is not information for dentists out there. I want you to give my son a call. And I did. And guess what? I was featured on Huffington Post. I have a whole press item on Huffington Post. So then now I use the Huffington Post, and now I'm calling other press items. And it's like, well, she's featured on Huffington Post. Let's get her on here. And I launched my business through that's a whole other topic, with breaking a world record. So I was already in some press items. But it's what you said. It's understanding that there is a strategy to this. It's understanding that when I spoke for that dental hygiene club, I didn't get paid. When I spoke with that first club, which was a complete disaster where I got rained on and I had no presentation, I did not get paid. I was just thankful to be there and to give them the opportunity to share this knowledge, which I wanted to talk about, you know? So I think there's this other thing where I come across many people in the industry who are maybe around my age group or are getting into the speaking gig. And again, I am not all knowing. There's so much I need to learn myself, but I feel that they immediately come and be like, well, they're not paying me 4 figures. Well, who are you? Why do you expect that, you know?
Yeah. And can I jump in there? I remember what it was too, thank you for that input. The other thing I wanted to point out about for the new person who's wanting to get booked, I also see that many times, because you're not someone that we've seen so much, that actually has a lot of value. And I think there's probably some of that played into it. I think there were 2 things that happened there with you. And that could be one of it. Is new, you're excited, but I think what you did really well was leverage a network. You leverage the fact that you were already there as a sponsor. You were smart. Well, you're a marketer at heart, right? And I think it's Fred Joyal or someone that has the book, Everything is Marketing.
Yes.
Right? But it's true. It's true. Every opportunity, you know, what we're doing here today is marketing for both of us. I mean, realistically, podcasts are all marketing, but everything is marketing. The conversations we have with our patients, it's all about that. And so when you are always looking for that opportunity to serve, so if you look at an opportunity to bring value to your relationship, that's when the magic happens. And I love that story that you sent. You did that very well with the being there in your mind, being able to say, hey, I can do this for you. And you're right there in front of them. I think that's brilliant. That's a great example of a great way to get started. I think for people who are wanting to just get very, very new to get started, talk to your local study club. Talk to the specialist in your area, local area. Many times specialists will do referring doctor seminars. I also find that it can be hard to be booked locally. So if you find that you're getting resistance with that, it's not just you. Some of the biggest name speakers in our industry have said they've had a hard time locally, and other people get able to do it really easily. So there's not just one approach. There's not one right answer, but there's definitely a lot of things you can try.
And one of the other things that I found while we were talking about this with the speaking, and I'm new to the newbie. I don't know what category I put myself in yet, because I feel like there's so much I want to learn, and so much I want to give back on. But one thing that I realized was also the relationship that you build. Like, if you have the opportunity to speak, don't be a jerk. Don't be this person who is so. Confidence is a good thing. You want to be confident as a speaker. You have to be confident, because otherwise nobody's going to pay attention to you, right? But don't be overconfident. Don't be, there are times when somebody will ask me, like, I always stay after my speaking gigs to answer questions, because some of the topics that I go over, I give them specific strategies on stuff. And sometimes those things are new because not everybody is familiar with it, right? So I will stay around and answer questions. And sometimes they will come up to me and be like, well, Manal, blah, blah, blah. Well, my thing is, I don't BS it. I say, you know what? That's a fantastic question. Right now, I do not have the answer for it. Give me your email. Let me get back to you. And I do get back to them. So make sure, if you commit to it, get back to them, research it, tell them what it is, and get back to them. Because I feel that for me, I don't have to be 100%. I'm confident enough to give you my material. This is what I know. This is what I can do. This is what we need to do. And there are questions which you need to learn from and say, oh, I don't know that part. That's great. And I tell them often, I said, you know what? That is such an amazing question. I love that you asked that. That is so out of box. Let me see what we can do. Come talk to me after the class, or give me your email address and I'll get back to you about it. But I realized that, when I first started doing it, a friend of mine was like, no, you're putting yourself down. You're coming off as not somebody who knows your topic. But the more I did it, the more I realized that they understand that this is human behavior. Like, they understood that this is normal, and they were very casual about it. And they said, okay, well, yeah, shoot me an email.
You don't have to be all things to all people.
No, you don't. And I think that's a hard part to, get out there as well. So that was one of the things that I thought was, always stick around after your presentation. I always do. I don't know if everybody does. I don't know if you're supposed to, if you're not supposed to. I don't know if it plays better if you don't and you're a professional. I don't know. I stick around because I want to go back and I want to answer your questions.
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy. Again, it goes back to the relationship.
And the relationship
that is really an important part of this.
And for the meeting planner, you always send them a thank you. You always say, thank you so much for having me. I was so excited to be there. Like, just because even if it's a free opportunity, you still had the opportunity. The word is opportunity. You still got a stage to talk about your messaging, right? So always say thank you to them and always show them appreciation and say, hey, listen, thank you so much for this. You're so great about this. I appreciated it, whatever it is, because that just turns into something else. So I think the PR part of it is really, really great. Now, while we are talking at marketing, so there is one way we talked about differentiation. We also talked about, making sure you have a strategy of some sort. And I give so many of my life examples, which may or may not help you guys. But the other thing is, what about, you provide a great, amazing program. So you have Dental Speakers Bureau, which I am a part of. And that provides a platform for you to showcase as a speaker. This is where meeting planners are going. They're looking into the topics, seeing what's out there. One of the things that I still am doing, which I haven't done yet, is getting that video. I hear there's a lot of videos that you got to get out. So what are some tips because I think it's very scary, because as a speaker, when you have to promote yourself on the video for the meeting planners, not everybody's able to do that. So what are some tips and tricks to do that? Because I know that most meeting planners immediately say, do you have a video? Does it have to be a presentation video? Can you just do a regular video? Like, what are some expectations in our industry?
That's a great question. And I think there's some, maybe it's clarification around that too. I think that a video is more of an advanced marketing tool. Certainly for someone who's newer, I wouldn't suggest starting there. I think it's tough. It's tricky to get good video, there's so much that has to go into it. And I don't mean necessarily high quality professional shoot, because we live in a YouTube day and age where, though it's good to have the high quality, but I think what's most important is how you represent yourself on the video. And so if it's tough to get, 5 to 7 or 8 minutes from a speech. And you certainly don't want to start at the beginning unless you really just start. Most people say, thanks for having me, or things like that. They don't just like get into it, which would, I think, be better. Or it's hard to piece pieces together and have it make sense. So from my experience, some of the better demo videos are when you can have that 7 to 8 minute opportunity, like we're doing at Dental Speaker Institute, where you can have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then you walk away. You could be on a platform with a pipe and drape, and it looks like you're keynoting and you're in your suit and you look professional. And then you have something that makes sense, and plus you can really tightly craft it. That's a really good snippet. So you wouldn't talk about 3 things in that. You'd cover one thing well, and you'd probably do it, that type of a thing, you'd probably do pretty motivationally, a high amount of emotion to some kind of a story, something that's going to draw them in, and then deliver your point and then give a powerful ending. I mean, there's some strategy around how to do that. I think it's just really tough to get one that represents someone well, because there's so much you can't control. But when you're actually given a full-on speech, like I've seen some before where it was shot so far back, we could see people talking to each other, they're not paying attention, or like somebody swinging in their chair constantly, or kicking their foot, or there's all these things going on that you can't control that are distracting. So I typically suggest to people that they hold off on that till they have their website, their speaker packet, they've had, I would not call you a beginner. You're certainly not a beginner, but to where you're at least at that intermediate to advanced stage, and take it on. Plus it can be pricey to try this and not have it turn out well. Mm-hmm. So it is important, but I still don't see that most meeting planners ask for it. I think it's highly likely you could get booked at like study club level or societies without it. Where they're going to want it is some of the bigger meetings. And I mean, at the state level, they want to scout you anyway, for the most part. So even with the video, they're going to want to have somebody there to hear your whole presentation. So it's a little bit of a myth too. But I do think that I'm seeing it come back. In the last 6 months, I've heard more and more requests for demo video than we have in the past, dozen years.
Well, that's interesting, because last year I spoke at that huge dental marketing conference in Las Vegas, which was completely sold out, over 400 people or 500 people in the audience. And that was because, funnily enough, not because of the video, because of the content, because I was sharing so much content. And they knew I was sharing so much content and I was speaking on this topic. So they asked me to, come. I'm going there again, in fact, this year as well. And this year they asked me to do multiple of the topics, because they understood that there's wide ranges that we can talk about. So they did that. But it's true. I guess if you focus on the content, focus on the marketing, there is so much to this, right, Vanessa? We can talk about this all day. We are running out of time because it's almost an hour. But, I want to thank you for sharing incredible amount of information. Every time I speak to you, I feel like there's more information, that there's so much knowledge out there that I need to just put it down on paper and go through all of it. But we want to know you as a person as well. That's the whole point of this, chat, is 2 friends chatting, interacting, coming up with a great conversation. Because you are in this industry, and this could be any speaker, not just in our industry, who is your favorite speaker and why?
That's an impossible question. For multiple reasons. Like, I don't want to get myself in trouble. Maybe because I've worked with hundreds of speakers. But I was actually asked this question a little slightly differently recently, and I'm going to give you that answer. So outside of the industry, because there are many exceptional speakers, and exceptional speakers they're not always on. Every day is not as good as the other. But for me, in my own life experience, the best experience I've ever had with the speaker, where it really impacted my life and really touched me as an attendee, and I learned so much in watching him as a speaker, was I attended Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within. Now, not everybody's a Tony fan. I was surprised to learn. For me, it was life-changing. Now, I don't love everything about the seminar, but what I loved was that there were 4,000 of us in Long Beach in the convention center basement. And it was so freaking cold that at one point they like sold out of every piece of clothing they had. We went and bought jackets and it was so cold, but we were there for 3 days. I mean, like literally people who've done a Tony event know it's like you get a couple hours of sleep. What impressed me was how he had everyone so engaged. He's one person, 4,000 people in that room. He had us so engaged. And to the point where we showed up as a disparate group of people who didn't know each other, started in the afternoon around 2 or 3. And by 10 o'clock that night, I literally walked on hot coals and did not feel a thing because he moved me as an attendee from the place of someone who just showed up like, I have no idea what this is going to be like this weekend, to a place he taught me a place I could go in my mind that literally I pulled upon that for the rest of my life. So this may be more than you want to know. but
No,
this,
I love it. I absolutely love it because I was thinking about going to one of his, 3-day workshops as well. So this is great.
Unleash the power within. That's the way to start. There were some things that was like, some of it wasn't like what I was really looking for, but overall, the experience I thought was so impressive as a speaker and it was really a training, but there were 4,000 of us. I mean, so for someone who's been speaking a while, think about that. It's like people get their own definition of what's a workshop, what's a training, what's a coach, what's a consultant, all this kind of stuff. But there were 4,000 people, and we as a group walked across literally stoking the fire to where they were glowing red embers, and I didn't feel a thing. And that was because of a technique he taught me within just a couple of hours. He taught 4,000 people. I think that's impressive.
It's very impressive. It's very impressive. I mean, he is obviously very good at what he does. I mean, not like you said, not everybody is going to like everyone, but I definitely would love to just see him in person because that would be great. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
The second question is about you. How would you describe yourself in one word?
That is such a hard question. If I have to grab at a word, I think, we change as we get older, right? All the time we're constantly changing. And I'm not the same person I was 10 or even 5 years ago. I think I'm driven. I feel like I'm really driven. I don't sleep much. I work a lot and I love it. I'm driven.
Well, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, right? That's the saying. If you love what you do, you are always going to be happy. You're always going to, enjoy your life and do that. It was so funny because I had a big life change recently because we moved from the East Coast to the West Coast. I'm actually living a millennial nomad lifestyle right now, and I plan to do that for the next couple of years. My husband, he's a physician, and he got an opportunity to work on Washington State. So we moved from New Jersey to Washington State for a few months, and then we'll be going elsewhere, and then we'll be going elsewhere. Funnily enough, Arizona is also on the list, so maybe I'll be in Arizona soon as well. But it's so funny that you have. For me, I'm so lucky to be able to do this with my husband, so that we are able, because we wanted to have this life of travel, and we're able to do that for his work and for my work. But it's what you said: if you're driven, you're going to figure out a way to make it work where you are. Right. So that's I love that word. And I think you are so driven. I mean, I don't know how you do everything you do, because every time I look at the email, I'm like, oh my gosh, you introduced something else. Oh my God, there's a blog topic now. Oh my God, there is this now. So that is so amazing. Thank you for everything that you do. It's a lot. And because of that, that takes me to my next question. Because you do so much, what is your superpower?
Okay, I love that, but it's not going to be dental related or speaking related.
That's okay. Whatever it is, we want to know.
This is the true Vanessa. My superpower is I have straydar. Straydar, what is that? Well, I can't leave my house because if I walk out my house, I find every stray animal. It's just what I do. I'm an avid, I love to exercise. I walk every morning, and we're heavily involved in cat rescue here in the Phoenix area because there is a cat situation here. There's just a lot because we don't have winter. And they, so anyway, so I have straydar. It's just, I try not to look sometimes because I'm like, I don't have time to take another one in today. But
Well,
Not too
you
expensive.
are one of my favorite people in, that I know is my mother-in-law. And my father-in-law and my mother-in-law, my husband's parents, they are both actually wildlife rehabilitators. So I totally understand the straight art because every time I go to their place, there is a new animal they're taking care of, and they have, it's amazing the kind of work. I think I think it makes you a very compassionate person to see that and to give back and to have the ability and to create that time. I mean, people complain about everything in life. They don't have enough time to do this. They don't have enough time to do that. And here are you really just helping all these animals and cats. I mean, but also animals themselves. And that's great. I love your superpower. Keep doing
Thank,
it. Keep doing it.
thank
I love
you.
it.
Thank you. And just real quickly too, to tie a bow on it all, I mean, that really brings us back around to vision, for my business. And that's why I really think it's so important for people to think about what do they want to create. Because for me, I'd really love to be able to be part of a team that brings an outdoor cat rescue here to a sanctuary where we could have thousands of cats, because we have 250,000 free roaming cats in the Phoenix area. That's a lot of cats that aren't being helped. And so ultimately, that's why every day I think about that and that driven part. And I think that that's so essential for someone who's wanting to take that entrepreneurial journey. Think about what it is you do want to create. So that my favorite Alice in Wonderland quote was when she asked the Cheshire Cat for directions or what. I don't remember. I should figure this out because I frequently refer to this, but he said something along the lines of, well, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. And so on
I
that
love that.
parting thought.
No, I absolutely love that. That was an amazing way to tie this all together. So, if somebody wants to reach out to you, what are the best ways to get in contact?
We have a new website and a new brand. We are The Dental Speaker. It's not Dental Speaker, it's thedentalspeaker.com. So my email is info@thedentalspeaker.com.
Oh, nice. Very easy and simple. We can all relate to that. Well, Vanessa, thank you so very much for doing this with me today, for speaking all strategies and listening to me blab about my experiences and all that good stuff, and sharing so much of strategies and your input. I really appreciate it. I'm sure a lot of you guys have questions. If you're listening to this, you're viewing this video, you know how to reach out to Vanessa, you know how to reach out to me. You got questions, post them, text them, email them, Facebook them. There are a million ways you can reach to us. So thank you so much for being good listeners.
Thank you for having me.